Adam Scherer here with Greg Ehrenberg, and a little bit different of a look here for the NBA injury report because I have no internet in my house, so I had to go to my parents to record this. In addition, we've got a new sponsor. NBA injury report is sponsored by FanUp today. If you guys have not signed up for FanUp, you could do it using the promo code Awesemo. Get yourself $25 for free in your account. All you have to do is sign up, make an account using that promo code Awesemo. Don't have to enter any other information. You just get $25 for free. You also get $20 in site credit at the same time when you sign up using that promo code Awesemo. Now we've got the NBA injury report to hit on today. It's a pretty lengthy one. Do us a favor, guys. Like the video. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. If anything changes from now until the time the slate starts, leave a question in the comment section below. I'll be answering those later in the day. But let's start with some of the big names on the injury report, and we're going to be saving the Warriors for last, something that's going to really shape the outlook of this slate because they're resting everybody. But starting with the Bulls, and we've got Nikola Vucevic. He is questionable to play. We've seen him play a pretty big role for Chicago, and he's been much better now than he was at the beginning of the year. How do you see the Bulls potentially filling his role in the front court if he isn't able to play, Adam?
I would expect it to be Tristan Thompson stepping up. For what it's worth, Billy Donovan had said that he expects Vooch to play, but if he doesn't, they have Tristan Thompson there now. Thompson actually started alongside Vooch last game. I don't expect that to be the case tonight against Philadelphia necessarily, but if Vooch were out, I would expect Thompson to replace him in the starting lineup, play as many minutes as he can to attempt to slow down Joel Embiid. Probably not going to be successful at it, but he would pretty clearly, I think, step up to be get a bump in minutes, and then you would just get more usage, more assist opportunities for guys like DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine.
Yeah, they tried to use him to slow down Giannis. I don't know why the Bulls came to that conclusion. Like, oh my God, we're playing against Giannis and the Bucks. Tristan Thompson, that's the answer. Didn't go particularly well.
Yeah, I mean, they had closed the previous game with them alongside each other too. So I thought like it was a good matchup for them to go that route. I was surprised that they actually started with it.
Yeah, and we'll see. Obviously, like you said, if Vooch ends up being out and Thompson starts, that would make him look pretty good. Last game that he started alongside Vooch, the minutes weren't really there. He also got in foul trouble, so some wonkiness that can make it hard to project. So hopefully Vooch is just in, and then we don't have to deal with the situation. Miami Heat coming up next, and another one with a possible new scenario here because we've got Victor Oladipo questionable to play. He has not played for the entire season. Seems like he's nearing Miami Heat debut. Then we also got Kyle Lowry and Cody Martin. They're both questionable to play. Lowry was initially listed out on the injury report, but is now back with the team, has been upgraded to questionable. But what happens in a scenario where Oladipo plays? How do you think that's going to impact some of the other guys on Miami?
I don't think from a DFS standpoint, it's likely to have too big of an impact because I don't think that, given that Jimmy Butler is back and, Bam's playing and all of that, PJ Tucker is back. I don't think that we were really likely to be getting to Caleb Martin or Max Strus anyway. Those are the guys that I would think Oladipo has the biggest impact on for right now because I'm not expecting Oladipo to come back and play big minutes. Eventually he has a negative impact on everybody from a fantasy standpoint. But for now, I kind of just expect him to be, out there for 16 minutes or so, taking usage away from the second unit, but we weren't really planning on playing those guys anyway.
And then what's going to happen if both Caleb Martin and Kyle Lowry are out? Is there somebody that would really stand out as a value option in that situation? I know Lowry has already been out for a little while at this point.
Yeah, I still don't think it would have a huge impact. Like if Lowry is out, then obviously you can take some shots on Gabe Vincent in a good matchup, assuming he remains in the starting lineup. If Martin is also out, it should help to solidify playing time for Max Strus, but he's also up to 4,100. And on this particular slate, that doesn't really stand out. Maybe, Hayward Highsmith gets in the rotation. The Heat just signed him to a 3-year contract. So maybe he starts to get some run, some more consistent run. But given all the value we have elsewhere on the slate and the fact that pricing is already adjusted mostly to Lowry being out, I don't really think that there's much that goes from like not being a play to being a good play. I do still think guys like Bam Adebayo and Jimmy Butler look a little bit better if Lowry is out. And obviously if Lowry's in, you're not even considering Gabe Vincent. But at this point, I don't think he makes a huge difference.
Yeah, that's kind of where I stand too. Like the pricing's already caught up at this point. Lowry's been out, but I do think it's interesting that Victor Oladipo is nearing a return. Next team to talk about here, the Portland Trailblazers, and really the only consistent we've had from this team over the last month or so is that Anfernee Simons is going to take a ton of shots and play a bunch of minutes. That changes now. Anfernee Simons is out today. In addition, Justice Winslow, Eric Bledsoe, Damian Lillard remains out. Yusuf Nurkic also remains out. Who is going to pick up the void in the usage? Because Simons has been doing almost everything for this team.
Yeah, I mean, I expect it to be a team effort, but also as far as the leaders go, I expect it to be Josh Hart and Brandon Williams. Josh Hart, I think, might take like I'm not overly comfortable with it because it's kind of outside of Josh Hart's game, but I think you see him really take a step up here in the very limited time since he's been with Portland. He's played about 51 minutes without Simons on the floor. He does have a 33% usage rate over that time and like a 33% assist percentage as well. So in that very limited sample, you've seen him just be the guy. And I think when you talk about him playing with Brandon Williams, Trendon Watford, Eubanks, Ellaby, Hughes, Keon Johnson, you would expect Josh Hart to step up and be the guy. Like he's the only true legitimate NBA player on this team. And so I expect him to see a nice bump in usage. Brandon Williams has been productive when he's played this year. He's only played about 100 minutes, but he's averaged a fantasy point per minute with like a 26.5% usage rate. So I think he will get up plenty of shots as well. And then I just kind of expect, CJ Ellaby, Elijah Hughes, Keon Johnson, those guys to just, continue to play a supporting role.
Next team here to talk about the San Antonio Spurs. And whenever there's players from the Spurs on the injury report, it tends to be a little bit of a disaster. For today, Keita Bates-Diop, Lonnie Walker, Devin Vassell, they're all doubtful to play. It's kind of hard to pinpoint any value guys here, for me at least. But I think it should help DeJounte Murray a little bit, although we generally like him pretty much every slate anyway. And I think Keldon Johnson's minutes are also a little bit more secure. Do you agree with that, or is there anything else you're looking at here from the Spurs as well?
So I think it makes Keldon Johnson's minutes more secure. I agree with you. I do think it opens the door. And again, this isn't, priority value on this particular slate because you have all of Golden State resting. You have Portland not playing NBA players, but it does make it so like my expectation is that Josh Primo joins the starting lineup, plays 30 to 32 minutes at 3,300. It makes him look like a decent point per dollar value that you can mix in. Doug McDermott, I think, plays more minutes at 3,600. Again, not somebody that you're going out of your way to just jam into a bunch of lineups, but it does open the door for him to offer some value. Josh Richardson hasn't really been in the rotation, but I have a hard time finding a way that, he doesn't play low to mid 20s at 3K flat, given all of these guys being out. So it makes him look okay. And then Trey Jones actually got to 20 minutes last game, played 7 minutes alongside DeJounte Murray. He is only $3,500. So another one where like all four of those guys, they just look like decent, like 18 to 20-ish fantasy point projections. But in a good matchup against the Lakers, it shouldn't be surprising at all if one of those guys pops off a little bit.
Yeah, and as per usual, DeJounte Murray, like I said before, almost always going to be a priority play at this point if you have the space to spend up for him. He's been such a good fantasy producer ever since Derek White got traded at the deadline. Next team here to talk about the Minnesota Timberwolves. Anthony Edwards, he remains doubtful. Seems like he's going to miss another game with the knee soreness that's been bothering him for about a month now. In addition, Patrick Beverley questionable, Naz Reid questionable, Taurean Prince questionable. The big one here is going to be Patrick Beverley. If he's out, what can we expect from Minnesota?
If Beverly's out, then I assume that you're getting more minutes from Malik Beasley. He started out well last game, then got ejected for headbutting, I think, Drew Eubanks. Assuming he doesn't do anything stupid here, he should play a lot of minutes. He got the start. He played about 22 minutes in 2.5 quarters before getting ejected. So I think you would see him back into the starting lineup. Some more assist opportunities potentially for D'Angelo Russell. Without Edwards, you get a bump in usage for Towns as well. And then the Taurean Prince piece, I think, is at least somewhat important because last game we saw 37 minutes apiece from Jared Vanderbilt and Jaden McDaniels. Prince did not play in the second half. So the combination of Beverly being out and then Prince not being available did open the door for a little bit more playing time for those two.
The next situation here, the Denver Nuggets nearly got 100 fantasy points out of Nikola Jokic in an overtime game last night. Now for today, Will Barton is questionable. Barton got hurt in the middle of last game, was unable to finish. If Barton's not able to go, who do you think steps up in his place? Jokic would look marginally better, but we're already going to be getting to Jokic anyway. Jokic crushed last night. I guess the only concern is if they limit his minutes on the tail end of a back-to-back after an overtime game. But either way, Jokic has to be a priority for me. What do you see happening if Barton doesn't go?
Yeah, I mean, if Barton doesn't go, I do think that the rates for Jokic go up a little bit. As far as like value options, though, I don't expect much to open up because what we've seen in the past is, I mean, sometimes you get like Devon Reed in the starting lineup. He's certainly not somebody that you're going to be looking to get to, but they've used him as a placeholder. You probably see a little bit more run for Austin Rivers. He could move into the starting lineup, but the only guy that comes off the bench for Denver that you're typically interested in on a point per minute basis, to some extent, Bryn Forbes, but it's Bones Highland. But Highland typically isn't going to be playing alongside Monte Morris. So, I expect whoever fills in for Barton, I expect it to be one of, Forbes, Rivers, Reed, maybe Marcus Howard, but probably one of those first three. And none of them are particularly appealing fantasy options, especially when you consider that, starting doesn't mean they're playing 36 minutes or anything. So assuming it's one of them, it makes it difficult to really like any of them. Maybe you get a little bit more playing time from like Aaron Gordon as a trickle down effect. But I think the big thing is that Jokic's rates go up, and I think you also see a little bit more production from Monte Morris if Barton's out.
Shocking. It's going to be another slate where Nikola Jokic projects as the highest projected fantasy scorer by a wide margin. If Barton's out, that gap will widen even more. And on the other side of this game, we have the most important injury news on the entire slate, because basically a rest game for the Warriors, holding almost everybody out. So their injury report: no Iguodala, Steph Curry, Draymond Green, Klay Thompson, James Wiseman, Gary Payton II, Andrew Wiggins. All of these players are going to be sitting tonight against Denver. This is the best value spot on the slate, Adam. I think there's a lot of guys we could get to, but who are the highest priority value plays from the Warriors?
I think Jordan Poole's number one. He's just mispriced. He's 5,300. Even if you just give him like 32 minutes, which that is one thing you and I were kind of talking about it before the show. I'm trying to be as cautious as I can with the Golden State minutes. Like, obviously, I don't want to just like take myself out of playing these guys because it is the best value spot on the slate. But Steve Kerr has 10 players available. I fully expect 10 players to step on the floor tonight. And I don't expect like the tightest rotations. They clearly do not care about this game. They refuse to send their three best players to Denver at all. So I don't expect it to be like, oh, we're going to play, the next best five guys 40 minutes and try and get this win. I do not think they care. But 32 minutes, call it 32 minutes for Jordan Poole. Since last year, without Thompson, Curry, Wiggins on the floor, he has a 30.5% usage rate and a 25% assist percentage. Makes him look like a great value. Jonathan Kuminga has a 26.5% usage rate without those guys on the floor this year. I think he looks like the next best guy. Kevon Looney probably gets a couple more minutes here. I think he plays around 28 minutes. He's close to a fantasy point per minute guy as long as he can avoid foul trouble. Makes him look like a strong value at 4,100. Then I think you kind of take a step back, but still get decent values in Otto Porter, assuming he's in the starting lineup, in Damian Lee at 3,400. You can take some shots at a $3,300 Toscano Anderson as well, although he is center only. But I think it's Poole and Kuminga Poole, Kuminga as the clear priorities. Looney looks very good. The only downside is that he's a center. And then I think Porter Lee is the next tier.